Hollywood, where the spotlight and fame shine brightly, but can also quickly turn into a nightmare. There is no shortage of talented young stars who once captivated audiences, only to disappear from the public eye after just a few failures, scandals, or personal mistakes. Some fell into the rut of failed films, others were boycotted, even got into legal trouble, making their careers seem beyond saving. But Hollywood never sleeps, and the comeback stories always leave us amazed. From Robert Downey Jr., who almost lost everything due to addiction, to Brendan Fraser, who disappeared from the screen due to depression and personal difficulties, or Winona Ryder, who was banned after a legal scandal, but still found an impressive way back. Each story carries a profound lesson about perseverance, choices, and second chances. In today's video, we delve into the world of Hollywood, exploring stars who hit rock bottom, seemingly insurmountable failures, and how, through hard work and luck, they found their way back to the spotlight, a story that's both inspiring and shocking. Taylor Lautner, the name that made the entire teenage world crazy in the 2010s, is the clearest proof of the harshness and unpredictability of Hollywood. In 2008, when Twilight was released, that fever spread all over the world. The film not only turned Kristen Stewart and Robert Pattinson into the new romantic icons of the screen, but also turned Taylor Lautner, the werewolf Jacob with a bright smile and a muscular body, into a pop culture phenomenon. He appeared on the cover of major magazines, was sought after at every event, and was praised as a promising young action face of Hollywood. However, that halo faded faster than many people expected. After the Twilight series ended, Lautner tried to escape the image of a teenage werewolf with more mature roles. The 2011 action film Abduction was expected to usher in a new era for him, but unfortunately, it didn't happen. Although the box office wasn't too bad, Abduction was poorly received by critics, and Lautner's acting ability became the center of controversy. Many believed that he still hadn't escaped his one-dimensional acting style, while his high salary made film studios wary. After that failure, Lautner continued to try his hand at TV projects like Scream Queens or Cuckoo, but failed to make a significant impression. Gradually, the spotlight faded, and Taylor Lautner, from one of the most sought-after faces on the planet, virtually disappeared from Hollywood for nearly 6 years. That disappearance left audiences with regrets, because just a few years before, he was a symbol of the Hollywood dream, where a young man could become a global star after just one role. But then, that dream also revealed its harsh dark side. In Hollywood, fame can come in an instant, but maintaining that position sometimes comes at the cost of a career. Today, Taylor Lautner still occasionally appears on TV shows, attends events, and lives a private life away from the cameras. Although he is no longer in his prime, his story is a true reminder that the Hollywood spotlight is never forever, and only those who are truly steadfast in their passion can find their way back. Despite Kitsch and co-star Lynn Collins' best efforts, the film only grossed $284 million, becoming one of the most expensive commercial failures in Hollywood history. That failure not only buried the ambitious project, but also dragged down the careers of the two main actors. Kitsch then tried his hand at Battleship, an action film inspired by the famous board game, and Oliver Stone's Savages. But both failed to live up to expectations. A brief glimmer of light appeared in 2013's Lone Survivor, which helped him prove his serious acting chops. But things quickly faded. His most recent film, 21 Bridges, 2019, despite starring Chadwick Boseman, couldn't reverse the decline. Co-star Lynn Collins, once hailed as the tough warrior of Mars, suffered the same fate. After John Carter, she gradually disappeared from the big screen, turning to television and taking on less than stellar supporting roles. However, in hindsight, John Carter wasn't as bad as people made it out to be. Its adventurous plot, impressive special effects, and classic spirit have made many audiences today reevaluate, even consider it a forgotten gem of the 2010s. Like Taylor Kitsch, Kit Harington, who once captivated the world with his role as Jon Snow in Game of Thrones, also had to face his own huge shadow. After the series ended, Harrington had difficulty escaping that image to find a new direction in cinema. The films he participated in later, such as Pompeii or Eternals, did not bring about the strong effect as expected, and then names like Kitsch, Collins, or Harrington became living proof of a bitter truth. In Hollywood, failure does not mean the end, but success is never permanent. Sometimes just one film, good or bad, is enough to completely change the fate of an actor. And in that fierce race, time is the fairest test to see who has enough perseverance, passion, and courage to return to the light. Charlie Hunnam, once hailed as Hollywood's most promising star after the resounding success of Sons of Anarchy. With his masculine looks, charismatic acting, and cinematic style, everyone thought he would quickly rise to the ranks of A-list actors. However, the path from the small screen to the big screen was not smooth. After conquering the television audience, Hunnam stepped into the film world with great expectations. Director Guillermo del Toro's Pacific Rim was his first chance to prove himself. With spectacular special effects and a global scale, the film brought in impressive revenue and reminded audiences of Hunnam's image as a strong hero. However, that success was not enough to help him build a solid foothold in Hollywood, where every role could be a step forward or a painful fall. The next turning point came with Crimson Peak, another artistic project of Del Toro. Although it didn't explode at the box office, the film received positive reviews from critics, and many believed it would be a stepping stone for Hunnam to go further. But Hollywood is never predictable. In 2017, he bet all his fame on King Arthur. Legend of the Sword, an action blockbuster with a huge budget of $175 million. Hunnam trained for months, performed many of his own action scenes, and hoped that playing King Arthur would help him affirm his position as a top star. However, when the film was released, it all collapsed. The film only earned less than $150 million and was criticized by critics. Many even believed that King Arthur was the slip that made it difficult for Hunnam to recover his film career. However, he did not give up. In 2019, Hunnam worked tirelessly, participating in up to 5 different film projects, but unfortunately, most of them failed both in revenue and content. The last film he shot that year was even delayed until 2022 and released quietly. The most recent opportunity came with Zack Snyder's ambitious 2023 project, Rebel Moon Part 1. But when the film was released online instead of in theaters, it failed to create the explosive effect expected. Critics once again made Hunnam's name sink in the middle of the Hollywood sea. Looking back at his journey, we see that The Spirit, 2008, a film adapted from a famous comic book, was once expected to be his first turning point. But then, like many other projects, it failed miserably. Since then, Hunnam has always tried to prove that he is not just a temporary TV star, but a real actor with depth. Now in his 40s, Charlie Hunnam still maintains his passion for cinema. He is no longer the young man who yearns for fame, but a man who has experienced the rigors of Hollywood and has yet to give up. The question is, can he choose the right project to step into the spotlight once again, or will he continue to be a symbol of unfulfilled dreams in the film capital? One of the stories that makes Star Wars fans feel heartbroken is the fate of Jake Lloyd, the boy who played Anakin Skywalker in Star Wars, The Phantom Menace. When the movie was released, people expected this to be a turning point to help Lloyd become a shining child star. But instead of receiving love from the audience, the boy became the center of criticism. Harsh criticism from the media and viewers, aimed at the movie, was poured on the shoulders of a boy who was only 10 years old. At that time, the internet was not as popular as it is now, but the pressure from the media and Hollywood press was enough to make Jake's childhood become an obsession. The family tried to protect their son from the attacks, but in the end, Lloyd still chose to leave the spotlight after only a few years in the profession. When he grew up, Jake Lloyd no longer appeared in public. He lived a closed life away from the media. Multiple sources say Lloyd has faced serious mental health issues as a result of his early exposure to the spotlight and trauma. There were periods when he had to be treated at a mental health facility to stabilize himself. To this day, Jake Lloyd is still in the process of recovery. His family shares that Jake is gradually getting better, receiving good care, and living a more peaceful life than before. Jake's story is not only a personal tragedy, but also a haunting reminder of the dark side of fame, where not everyone is lucky and strong enough to overcome the pressure from the Hollywood spotlight. Hayden Christensen, from Jedi Knight to the journey to find himself. Perhaps no one can forget the eyes torn between good and evil of Anakin Skywalker, who was chosen to bring balance to the Force, but eventually became a symbol of darkness. And behind that character, there was an actor who was once expected to become a new generation star of Hollywood, Hayden Christensen. When Attack of the Clones, 2002, and Revenge of the Sith, 2005, were released, Hayden's fame exploded overnight. He reached the pinnacle that many young actors dream of, possessing a handsome face, being chosen for one of the most iconic roles in cinema history, and being expected to become the next face of Hollywood's golden generation. But then, like the character Anakin himself, Hayden's path then took a difficult turn. After Star Wars, Hayden failed to take advantage of the momentum of fame to move forward. Many of the projects he participated in were either unsuccessful or not enough to make a splash. However, there was a moment of hope. In 2008, he appeared in Jumper, a science fiction film with a large investment and grossed over $225 million worldwide. That number was enough to satisfy producers, but not critics. They said Jumper was fascinating in concept, but empty in emotion, and Hayden's acting was considered to have not reached its depth. From then on, his career gradually slowed down. A series of small, low-profile films were released and then quietly disappeared. In the 2010s, Hayden Christensen's name appeared sparsely on the big screen, as if Hollywood had forgotten about him. By 2019, The Last Man was released but did not leave an impression, and that was almost his silent farewell to cinema at that time. But like Anakin Skywalker's own fateful cycle, there is always light somewhere in the darkness. In 2022, Disney and Lucasfilm gave Hayden a chance to rebirth, returning as Darth Vader in Obi-Wan Kenobi, alongside his old friend Ewan McGregor. When that black mask was removed, audiences didn't just see Darth Vader. They saw a mature, calm Hayden Christensen who seemed to have truly reconciled with his own past. No longer the young man pressured by expectations, Hayden is now a man of experience, who understands that Hollywood is a place where everything can change after just one movie, but also a place where, if you are patient enough, you can still rewrite your own destiny. Hayden's return also reflects a larger trend in the industry. Television is no longer a landing place for aging stars, but has become a new land of rebirth opportunities. Like Matthew McConaughey with True Detective, or Bryan Cranston with Breaking Bad, Hayden Christensen is using this wave to affirm that he still has a lot to tell, a lot of emotions to give. Hayden's story is a testament to what Hollywood has always taught us. No career is ever really over. Only stars who know when their time is right to shine again. Elizabeth Berkley, from teen star to victim of harsh Hollywood. In the 1990s, Elizabeth Berkley was one of the brightest faces on American television. With her role as Jessie Spano in the hit series Saved by the Bell, she became the idol of a generation of teenagers, smart, charismatic, and full of energy. Hollywood at that time placed high hopes on Berkley, believing that she would be the next big star who could break out of the small screen to conquer cinema. But then, a fateful turning point happened in 1995, when she accepted to participate in Showgirls, a film directed by Paul Verhoeven, who had had great success with Basic Instinct. The film was promoted as a big hit, promising to bring Berkley to A-list stardom. However, the reality was completely the opposite. When Showgirls was released, it became one of the most famous failures of the decade. The film was heavily criticized by critics, the box office was disastrous, and worse, Elizabeth Berkley became the focus of ridicule and attack. After just one role, the door of Hollywood almost closed in front of her. Many directors and producers hesitated to cooperate, while the public also quickly forgot the image of that once brilliant young star. Berkeley tried to save her career by turning to television, but this environment at that time was not strong enough to help her revive. She appeared in a few episodes, a few supporting roles in small projects, but none of them helped her regain her position. In fact, for many years, the name Elizabeth Berkley almost disappeared from the entertainment news. It was not until 2020, when the revival of Saved by the Bell was released, that Berkley had the opportunity to return to the audience. This time, she was no longer the young girl of the past, but a mature, experienced woman carrying all the ups and downs of her career. However, despite being revived, the project only lasted one season before being canceled, leaving many people feeling sorry for a talent once considered promising. Elizabeth Berkley's story is a clear example of the dark side of Hollywood, where just one wrong choice can completely change a career. She is not the only one in the generation of actors of the 90s to meet a similar end. Many young stars of the same era also struggled between the old halo and the harsh reality of the entertainment industry. Today, when looking back, audiences tend to evaluate Showgirls more fairly and even see it as a cult classic with a bold and different perspective. However, the damage the film caused to Berkley's career is undeniable, and somewhere, her story still reminds people that, in the glamorous world of Hollywood, success is sometimes just one role away from failure. Megan Fox, when Hollywood's sex symbol lost its shine, and the journey to find herself, Megan Fox was once one of the most sought-after faces in Hollywood. With just the first two parts of the Transformers series, she suddenly became a global icon. Sexy, strong, and somewhat rebellious. But just a few years later, that shine seemed to fade incredibly quickly. Behind the charming appearance and brilliant success, there was a series of events that few could have expected. During the process of collaborating with director Michael Bay, Fox once frankly expressed her opinion about his strict working style. She thought that Bay was too perfectionist, sometimes making actors feel extremely pressured on set. Those statements caused a wave of attention, especially when Steven Spielberg, the film's producer, was said to be dissatisfied. As a result, Megan Fox was suddenly absent from the Transformers sequel, and many people began to speculate that she had been removed from the list of favored stars in Hollywood. That incident became a turning point in her career. After leaving Transformers, Megan Fox tried her hand at many other projects, from action movies like Jonah Hex to horror movies like Jennifer's Body. However, most of them did not achieve the expected success. Jennifer's Body was poorly reviewed when it was released in 2009, but more than a decade later, this work is considered a bold feminist film ahead of its time, a typical example of how Hollywood is sometimes not ready for different perspectives. Not only did she have difficulty with critics, Megan Fox also had to face heavy prejudice about the sex symbol image, which once made her famous, but also made many directors hesitate to choose her for roles with psychological depth. In the years that followed, she continued to work on projects big and small, including 2 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles films, but the revenue was not strong enough to bring her name back to the golden age. However, Megan Fox never completely disappeared from the spotlight. She chose to change, appearing in TV shows, magazines, and even turning to the field of production. In 2023, she appeared in The Expendables 4 with Jason Statham and Sylvester Stallone, a move that was seen as an effort to reaffirm her position in Hollywood. Although the film did not create a big echo, this was a sign that Fox was still persistent in her passion for acting, instead of accepting to be forgotten. Now, Megan Fox is returning with a new project called Subservient, a film that is expected to show another side of her, more mature and complex. Perhaps the road ahead is still full of challenges, but looking back at the journey of over 15 years, one can clearly see one thing. Megan Fox is not only a symbol of beauty, but also a testament to perseverance in the harsh world of Hollywood, where only those who are resilient enough can stand firm for a long time. One of the saddest stories about being forgotten in Hollywood is the journey of Mira Sorvino, a talented actress who was once praised as a symbol of intelligence and bravery. Coming from Harvard, Mira gradually rose to the pinnacle of fame when she won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actress in 1995 for her role in Mighty Aphrodite. However, behind that halo was a series of difficult days that few people know about. During the most brilliant period of her career, Mira had to face pressures and powerful forces in the film industry, causing her to lose many valuable opportunities. She once shared that there were times when it seemed like all doors were closed in front of her, not because of her talent, but because of factors beyond her control. In the following years, Mira Sorvino almost disappeared from major Hollywood projects. The rumors, unfairness in the evaluation, and the harsh environment of the film industry have made her choose a quieter lifestyle, focusing on her family and independent films. However, that silence does not mean she has given up. In recent years, Mira has gradually returned, appearing in highly rated film and television projects. Her story is a testament to the truth. In Hollywood, although power can overshadow fairness for a while, talent and perseverance will always find a way to shine again. One of the best examples of a Hollywood comeback is Robert Downey Jr. His career, which is both exciting and tumultuous enough to be the subject of a biopic, began at a very young age. Downey Jr. grew up in an unusual environment. His father, Robert Downey Sr., introduced him to marijuana at the age of 6 and cocaine at the age of 8. It was this environment that sowed the seeds of his later addiction problems. Downey Jr. began using drugs at a young age, and in a 2014 interview with Marlo Stern for the Daily Beast, he admitted that the 1987 film Less Than Zero was a negative turning point in his life. During filming, he even used drugs after work and on weekends, sometimes getting drunk on set but doing nothing more than stunt work. By the time the film ended, his addiction had worsened, and Downey Jr. played addicts in exaggerated ways, almost mirroring his own life, which began to put his career on the back burner. By 1996, he was in constant trouble with the law. He was arrested for speeding, possessing heroin, cocaine, crack, and a gun. A month later, the Goldilocks incident occurred when Downey lost control of his drug use, entered a neighbor's house through an unlocked front door, and fell asleep in an empty bed. He was sentenced to rehab, but later escaped multiple times and was arrested again. Eventually, Downey served a year in a California prison. When he got out, acting opportunities dried up. No one wanted to cast an actor who was a burden. Two factors helped revive his career. First, his wife, Susan Downey, who has supported him through his addiction recovery and sobriety since 2003. The second was Mel Gibson, a longtime friend who stepped in and paid for the insurance himself so that producers would be willing to work with Downey. He proved his worth in 2003's The Singing Detective, which led to more opportunities like Gothika and Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. Although producers often withheld part of his salary until the film was completed, Downey proved himself to be a reliable actor. All of this work culminated in 2008's Iron Man. With the support of director Jon Favreau and the faith of producers, the MCU has made Downey a global icon for over a decade. This success, combined with his recent Academy Award win, proves that almost anyone can recover, even from near bankruptcy and prison. The story of Robert Downey Jr. is a living testament to the power of perseverance, love, and self-belief in this cutthroat industry. One of the most remarkable stories of Hollywood's rise and fall is Nicolas Cage, who was at the height of his fame, then fell into financial crisis, but still resiliently regained his halo. Unlike Robert Downey Jr., the cause of Cage's decline did not come from stimulants or personal scandals, but from his incredibly crazy spending habits. In his prime, Nicolas Cage was one of the highest-paid action stars in the world. He earned tens of millions of dollars a year and spent money at a dizzying rate, from rare supercars, yachts, to castles and private islands. He even spent money on a dinosaur skull, which he later had to return to the Mongolian government because of its illegal origin. Those huge expenses quickly landed Cage in trouble with the U.S. Internal Revenue Service, IRS, leading to a series of legal and financial problems. Although he claims that most of the blame lies with his manager, it is clear that this was a painful fall for the star who was once considered the money-printing machine of Hollywood. Since then, Nicolas Cage's career has gradually slowed down. Films like The Sorcerer's Apprentice and Ghost Rider, Spirit of Vengeance did not meet expectations, causing his name to gradually fade from the cinema map. But instead of disappearing, Cage chose to work tirelessly, taking on dozens of independent projects, low-budget films, even appearing only briefly, but still giving his all in each role. He once said, "I don't make films for fame. I do it because it's what I love." And it was that passion that helped him come back. In the 2010s, Nicolas Cage returned with a series of excellent roles in films such as Mandy, Spider-Man, Into the Spider-Verse, 2018, and especially Pig, 2021, the film that helped him receive a shower of praise from critics. Pig not only proved that he is still a talented actor, but also showed the maturity and emotional depth that only time and failure can bring. Today, Nicolas Cage is no longer the icon of blockbuster movies as before, but he has become a living legend, someone who proves that failure is not the end. Because in Hollywood, the halo may fade, but for those who truly love the profession and dare to stand up after mistakes, this stage will always open its arms to welcome them back. Brendan Fraser is a name that makes many movie lovers nostalgic for the golden age of Hollywood, and I am no exception. I still clearly remember the first time I stepped into the cinema in 2008, watching Journey to the Center of the Earth and The Mummy, Tomb of the Dragon Emperor. The Mummy Blu-ray was even one of the first discs I owned, a souvenir that reminded me of my childhood, full of fantasy adventures and Fraser's charismatic hero image. Brendan Fraser was a shining star of the 90s. Starting his career at the same time as Darren Aronofsky, he made a strong impression right from the film School Ties, 1992, surpassing names that would later become legends such as Ben Affleck and Matt Damon to win the lead role. With his handsome appearance, gentle demeanor, and natural acting, Fraser quickly became a face loved by global audiences, especially after the resounding success of the Mummy series. But behind the bright lights were years of challenges. Heavy action roles took a toll on his body, forcing him to undergo multiple surgeries in 2003. Worse, Fraser was a victim of sexual assault by Philip Burke, former president of the Hollywood Foreign Press Association. At the same time, a costly divorce, financial pressure, and prolonged depression nearly cost him everything. From 2014 to 2019, Brendan Fraser all but disappeared from Hollywood, an old icon forgotten by time and prejudice. But then a miracle happened. Director Darren Aronofsky, who started his career with him, brought Fraser back in The Whale, 2022. The film not only moved viewers, but also proved that true talent never fades. Fraser's portrayal of a lonely, broken, yet compassionate man earned him the prestigious Oscar for Best Actor, a triumph so emotional it felt like a response to all those years of neglect. Today, Brendan Fraser isn't just back, he's reborn. After heartbreak and loss, he's stronger than ever, ready to move forward with new projects. And his story, with all its pain, resilience, and faith, has become one of the greatest resurrections in Hollywood history. Winona Ryder was one of Hollywood's brightest stars in the 1980s and 1990s. She was beloved not only for her fragile beauty and unique personality, but also for her exquisite acting talent, as evidenced by 2 consecutive Oscar nominations in 1994 and 1995. However, that halo suddenly disappeared in 2001, when Ryder was arrested for stealing more than $5,000 in merchandise from Saks Fifth Avenue. Her sentence was quite harsh: 3 years of probation, 480 hours of community service, nearly $10,000 in fines and restitution, and a requirement to participate in psychological counseling and drug rehabilitation programs. The incident caused Winona's career to collapse almost overnight. Hollywood, which once honored her as the muse of the 1990s, now turned its cold back. Famous director Woody Allen once revealed that he could not buy insurance for Ryder, causing many studios to refuse to cooperate with her. Under such terrible pressure, Winona almost disappeared from the screen. But later she frankly shared, "People thought I disappeared from Hollywood, and that was true. But actually, I just chose to step out of that world to find myself again. It was a real awakening." In the following years, Winona only appeared in independent films, quietly working without seeking fame. And then, when she accepted to participate in Stranger Things, fate smiled on her once again. The film brought Ryder back to the spotlight, No longer the fragile muse of the past, but a mature, experienced, and powerful actress. Today, Winona Ryder is living proof that no matter how many times she stumbles, true talent will never disappear. She not only returns, she's reborn, and finds her light in her own unique way. There are countless examples of actors who have fallen off the wagon. Some have gotten into trouble with the law, others have disappeared from the limelight. All of these stories are just the tip of the iceberg. Some have chosen to withdraw completely, while others are still struggling to find their way back. These long slides are truly scary, and perhaps at that moment, they themselves felt that fear more than anyone else. However, there are still many young faces who have participated in GE projects with enough potential to start over. Whether they can revive their careers or not, only time and their own future choices will tell. In an era where online actors are gradually becoming the king, at least they still have one consolation: that the entertainment world is still producing more opportunities than ever. But the real question is it the path they truly desire? Or is it just a temporary stepping stone before leaving the spotlight completely? Spotlight completely. Spotlight completely. Spotlight completely.